I refused to hand over my car, so my parents helped my brother abandon me 3 miles from any signal. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Emily Parker. I'm 24 years old, and nothing in my life has ever been handed to me. I worked through high school, saving every tip from late-night diner shifts, every extra dollar from babysitting, every bit of holiday money that other kids my age blew on shoes or nights out. It all went toward one thing, my Honda Civic. It wasn't fancy, just a modest used car, but to me it was everything. Freedom, safety, proof that I could stand on my own 2 feet. My brother, Jason, couldn't be more different. He's 21, the golden child, and somehow he's managed to glide through life without lifting a finger. My parents, Karen and Robert, coddle him like he's royalty. He flunked out of community college, quit every job he's ever tried, and spends most of his time gaming in the basement. And yet, whenever Jason wants something, my parents bend over backward to get it for him. So when Jason looked at me one night across the dinner table and said, "Emily, you should let me have your car. I deserve it more," I almost laughed. "Excuse me?" I said, fork frozen halfway to my mouth. "You heard me," he smirked, leaning back like a king waiting for tribute. "You don't even go anywhere important. I've got opportunities, you know? I can't be stuck taking the bus." I stared at him, completely stunned. "Jason, I bought that car. With my money. You've never worked a day in your life." That was when my mom jumped in. "Emily, don't be selfish. Jason's trying to get his life together, and a car would really help him. You can always carpool to work or take the bus for a while." The words hit me like a slap. Selfish? After years of paying my own bills, buying my own groceries, while Jason leeches off them like a parasite. "I'm not giving him my car," I said flatly. My hands were shaking under the table, but I held my voice steady. "It's mine. I earned it. End of story." My dad sighed in that disappointed way he reserves just for me, never for Jason. "Emily, don't dig in your heels. Families share. Your brother needs support right now." I could feel the heat rising in my chest, the sting of tears pushing at my eyes. They weren't even asking me. They were telling me. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an expectation that I would just hand over the most valuable thing I owned, like Jason's needs automatically outweighed my own. Jason leaned forward, smirking again. "You're seriously going to keep it from me? Come on, Em. You know I'll get it eventually. Why not just make it easier on all of us?" I stood up from the table, chair scraping against the tile. "No, I'm not giving you my car. You can keep waiting forever, because it's never going to happen." The room went silent except for the clatter of Jason's fork dropping onto his plate. My mom's mouth tightened. My dad shook his head. Jason just smirked wider, like my refusal was nothing but a temporary obstacle. That night, lying in my room, I realized something had shifted. The air in the house was colder. My parents barely looked at me, and when they did, it was with that quiet disapproval that cut deeper than shouting ever could. Jason strutted around like he'd already won, like it was only a matter of time before they wore me down. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't backing down. That car was mine, and no amount of guilt tripping or manipulation would change that. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have imagined, was just how far they'd go to prove me wrong. The morning after that fight at the dinner table, the tension in the Parker household was thick enough to choke on. Emily sat at the counter with her mug of coffee, hoping to avoid confrontation before heading to her shift at the clinic. But her mom's voice came sharp from behind her. "Emily, you really should think about Jason," Karen said, arms crossed, eyes narrowed in that way she always had when she was about to lecture. "He's your brother. Don't you think you could be a little nicer?" Emily turned slowly, keeping her grip tight on the mug so her hands wouldn't shake. "Nicer? Mom, he tried to take my car. I need it for work. Without it, I can't even get to my shifts on time." Robert folded his newspaper with a dramatic sigh. "We're not saying give it away. Just share it. Jason's trying to get his life together. Don't you think he deserves some support? You've always been the independent one. You'll figure it out." Emily stared at her dad, her throat tightening. Independent sounded less like a compliment and more like a sentence. Like because she had worked hard and made her own way, she didn't deserve any sympathy. Jason strolled into the kitchen just then, yawning like a prince waking in his palace. He poured himself cereal and plopped down, grinning. "Hear that, Em? Even Dad agreed. You can figure it out. I mean, come on, your job isn't rocket science. If you're late once in a while, who cares?" Emily set her mug down so hard it rattled. "I care. My boss cares. That car is the only reason I can work double shifts and pay my bills. I bought it with my own money. Mine. Not yours. Not theirs." Jason just spooned cereal into his mouth, smirk stretching wide. "Relax. I'll get it eventually. You're just making this harder than it needs to be." The words dug under her skin like splinters. He said it with such confidence, as though the outcome was already written. And worse, her parents didn't correct him. From that day forward, the house turned into a quiet battlefield. Her mom started leaving her laundry unfolded, muttering about how some people don't appreciate family. Her dad stopped asking about her work and instead launched into conversations about Jason's big potential. Even dinners, once neutral ground, became loaded with backhanded remarks. "Emily, you're working too much," her mom would say, slicing her meat with pointed stabs. "Maybe if you took a break, you'd understand what Jason's going through." Or her dad, shaking his head. "You know, Jason has big dreams. He just needs the right tools. That's what family's for, helping each other." Every word dripped with guilt, as if Emily's refusal to hand over her car was single-handedly crushing Jason's future. Meanwhile, Jason played the victim 1 minute and the king the next. When Emily came home late, exhausted, he'd lounge on the couch, scrolling his phone and casually toss out, "How's my car holding up? Treating it nice for me." At first, she tried ignoring him, but the more her parents sided with him, the harder it was to keep her anger buried. She'd go to her room, close the door, and press her fists into her mattress until her knuckles hurt, just to stop herself from screaming. The worst part wasn't Jason's arrogance, it was the betrayal. Every time her parents dismissed her, every time they twisted her words into selfishness, Emily felt a little piece of her trust in them crumble. They had watched her work herself ragged, scraping for every dollar to afford that car. They had seen her tears the night she finally bought it, keys clutched in her shaking hand. And now they acted like it meant nothing. It started with the jingling of keys that weren't supposed to be in his hand. Emily came home one evening, worn out from a 10-hour shift at the clinic, and found Jason leaning against her Honda in the driveway. He spun her keys around his finger, grinning like a kid who'd just pulled off the world's greatest prank. "What the hell are you doing with those?" she snapped, dropping her bag on the... Jason shrugged, casual as ever. "Relax, Em. I just took it for a spin. Needed to pick up a buddy." Her pulse hammered in her ears. "You took my car without asking?" "Technically, it's Mom and Dad's house," he said, smirk widening. "So, family property, right?" That was it. Weeks of their constant needling boiled over. Emily lunged forward and snatched the keys from his hand, gripping them so tight the ridges dug into her palm. "Don't you ever touch my car again. Do you hear me, Jason? Ever." Jason straightened, his smirk turning into a sneer. "God, you're dramatic. It's just a car. A car I paid for," she shouted, her voice cracking. "Every hour I worked, every bill I scraped to cover, that's what this car cost me. You think you can just take it like it's yours?" The front door slammed open. Karen appeared on the porch, dish towel still in her hand, eyes flashing. "What is going on out here?" Emily turned to her, still shaking. "He stole my keys. He took my car without asking." Jason threw his hands up, wounded innocence plastered on his face. "I just borrowed it. I was careful." She's blowing it out of proportion. Blowing it. Emily's words stuck in her throat. Karen's gaze hardened. "Emily, enough. You're making a scene. He's your brother. Families help each other." Robert's voice joined from behind her mom, stern and heavy. "Emily, this selfish attitude has to stop. You don't own the world just because you bought a used car. Jason needs a leg up." Emily stared at them, her jaw trembling, the keys digging deeper into her skin. "You're siding with him? He stole from me, and you're defending him." Jason grinned, victory all over his face. "Told you, Em. It's only a matter of time." Her chest tightened, like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. They weren't even pretending to be neutral anymore. Their loyalty wasn't to fairness or to respect. It was to Jason's comfort. Every sacrifice she had made meant nothing. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered, mostly to herself. "What was that?" her dad barked. Emily lifted her chin, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I said I can't live like this anymore. You want to hand Jason everything? Fine, but I won't be part of it." Her mom's mouth dropped open. "Don't be ridiculous. Where are you going to go?" Emily didn't answer. She stormed past them, slamming her bedroom door behind her. Her legs gave out as soon as she reached the bed, the keys still clutched in her fist. Hot tears spilled down her cheeks, not just from anger, but from the crushing weight of realization they would never choose her. No matter how hard she worked, no matter how much she sacrificed, Jason's needs would always come first. She sat there for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying every fight, every sneer, every guilt trip. The decision took root slowly, but by the time the sky outside her window turned dark, it was solid. She would move out. The thought was terrifying: rent, bills, all the responsibility of living completely alone. But staying here was worse. Staying here meant death by 1,000 cuts, each one delivered by the people who were supposed to love her most. There was only one problem. She glanced at the keys in her hand, the weight of them grounding her. The car was her lifeline, her ticket out. Without it, she was trapped. And now she knew Jason and her parents weren't going to let her keep it without a fight. A week passed after the screaming fight, but the house never settled. Emily kept her bedroom door locked whenever she was home, the car keys tucked under her pillow at night like a weapon she couldn't afford to lose. Every interaction with Jason was sharp and venomous, and every word from her parents felt like it carried a hidden accusation. She was exhausted, tired of the battles, the tension, the feeling of being cornered in her own home. So when her mom appeared one Sunday morning with a too-bright smile and said, "Emily, how about a family outing today? Just the four of us, no fighting, no tension. We all need a reset," Emily froze. Her first instinct was suspicion. Karen never apologized. She never admitted when she was wrong. But her dad chimed in, voice soft in a way that was rare. "It's been a rough couple of weeks. Let's go out together. Fresh air, no arguments." Jason stood behind them, arms folded, smirk hidden but still there, like he already knew something Emily didn't. "I don't know," Emily said cautiously, tightening her grip on her coffee mug. "Come on," her mom urged. "Don't you miss when we all used to spend time together? We'll go out to the state park, walk a trail, maybe have a picnic. No phones, no distractions." That last part pricked at Emily's nerves. "Why no phones?" "To disconnect," Karen said smoothly. "We've all been too glued to our screens. Just one day of peace, okay? Jason will drive." Emily's stomach twisted. Jason behind the wheel of her car? But her parents were watching her, eyes expectant, and she felt that familiar weight of guilt pressing down on her shoulders. Maybe, just maybe, they were trying to meet her halfway. Maybe this was their version of an olive branch. She exhaled. "Fine, but I'm not leaving my phone in the car." Her mom's lips thinned. "Emily." "Fine." Emily cut in quickly. "I'll leave it." The words felt sour on her tongue, but she forced them out. It wasn't worth another fight, not if this outing could actually be a step toward peace. They left just after noon. Emily slid into the back seat, Jason at the wheel, her parents chatting lightly in the front like nothing was wrong. The Honda rumbled to life, and Jason's smirk reflected in the rearview mirror made her heart kick faster. "Seatbelt, Em," he said in a mocking sing-song. She clipped it in place, ignoring him. Outside the window, familiar suburban houses gave way to stretches of farmland, then patches of wood. The further they went, the more the roads narrowed, the signal bars on her phone dwindling before she finally powered it off and shoved it into the glove compartment, as her mom had asked. Her parents kept talking, about the weather, about Jason maybe trying another class at community college, but Emily barely heard them. Her focus was on the way the landscape grew emptier, lonelier. They passed fewer cars, fewer houses. The road cracked and narrowed, until it was little more than a dirt path flanked by dense trees. Her chest tightened. "Where exactly are we going?" "The park entrance is up this way," her dad said without turning. "I've been to that park before," Emily countered, eyes narrowing. "This isn't the road." Jason chuckled under his breath. "Relax, Em. You always think the worst." But she couldn't relax. Every mile deeper into nowhere made her skin prickle. Her gut screamed that something was wrong, that this wasn't about reconciliation, no matter how sweetly her mom had smiled that morning. The Civic bumped over a pothole, and Emily clutched the seat in front of her. The trees loomed taller, pressing in on all sides, and the road ahead curved into shadow. Her suspicion hardened into certainty. They weren't taking her on a family outing. They were taking her somewhere she didn't want to be. The dirt road stretched ahead like a scar through the woods, cracked and uneven, dust swirling in the car's wake. Emily's unease grew with every jolt of the tires, her hand gripping the seatbelt tight. Jason hummed to himself at the wheel, tapping his fingers against it like this was just a casual Sunday drive. Then, without warning, he slammed the brakes. The Honda skidded to a stop, gravel crunching beneath the tires. Emily lurched forward, catching herself against the seat. "What the hell, Jason?" she snapped. Her mom twisted in her seat, her smile oddly forced. "Emily, hop out for a second. We need your help with something in the back." Emily frowned. "Out here? We're in the middle of nowhere." "Just get out," her dad said firmly, already unbuckling his belt as though to encourage her. "It'll only take a minute." Every instinct screamed at her not to move, but their eyes were on her, pressing down, waiting. With her heart hammering, she unclicked her seatbelt and shoved the door open. The air outside was heavy with dust and pine, silent except for the soft tick of the engine cooling. "What exactly?" she began, but the words died in her throat. The driver's side door slammed shut. Jason's face flashed with a grin so smug it made her blood run cold. Before she could react, the engine roared. "Jason, wait." But the tires spun against the gravel, spitting dust into her face. The car lurched forward, and in seconds it was barreling down the dirt road, her parents' silhouettes visible through the rear window. Her mom's laugh rang out, sharp and cruel, followed by her dad's booming chuckle. Jason threw his fist in the air like it was a victory lap. And then they were gone. The silence hit harder than the dust cloud that stung her eyes and filled her lungs. Emily stood frozen, staring at the empty stretch of road, her keys and phone locked inside the car. She reached for her pockets out of instinct, empty. No water bottle, no bag. Just the clothes on her back and the ache in her chest that spread like fire. Her knees nearly buckled. No, they didn't just. Her voice broke, echoing uselessly in the still woods. She spun in a circle, trees closing in on all sides. The road behind her stretched endlessly, no sound of an engine returning. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Betrayal, sharp and searing, cut through her disbelief. Her parents. Her own parents. They hadn't just chosen Jason over her, they had left her. Cast her out like she was nothing more than an inconvenience. Her hands trembled, fists curling until her nails dug into her palms. Rage surged hot and dizzying, but it was tangled with something colder, something that made her stomach lurch. Fear. She was stranded. 3 miles, maybe more, from any signal. No phone. No water. No way to call for help. The woods whispered around her, insects buzzing, a crow cawing in the distance. Each sound pressed in like a reminder of how utterly alone she was. Dust clung to her skin, the taste of betrayal bitter on her tongue. She stumbled to the side of the road, knees shaking, and dropped to the dirt. Her breath came in ragged pulls, tears burning her eyes. The image of her mom laughing, seared itself into her mind. Her dad's head tilted back, amusement painted on his face. Jason's triumphant fist in the air. It wasn't just Jason's cruelty. It wasn't just his arrogance. It was their approval of it, their joy in watching her suffer. Emily dug her hands into the dirt, grounding herself, refusing to collapse completely. Rage roared back through the fear, hotter, sharper, more alive. Fine, she whispered to the empty trees, her voice shaking but steady enough to carry. Leave me out here. Abandon me. But I swear, you'll regret it. Her legs wobbled as she pushed herself upright, staring down the empty road where the car had vanished. 3 miles, 10 miles, it didn't matter. She would walk. She would make it back. And when she did, nothing in her life would ever be the same. The sun bore down like it wanted to break her. Emily trudged along the dirt road, shoes crunching over gravel, sweat rolling down her spine in sticky rivulet. Every breath felt hot and shallow, the air heavy with pine and dust. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of grit behind. The silence of the woods pressed against her ears, only broken by the rhythmic thud of her footsteps. Her legs already ached, but the anger in her chest kept her moving. Each step forward carried another memory, each one slamming into her harder than last. Jason at 16, throwing a tantrum when he dented his bike, their parents rushing to buy him a new one while Emily was told to keep using the same pair of worn sneakers until Christmas money came in. Jason at 18, skipping his college classes, her parents blaming the professors for being too harsh, while they laughed at Emily's tears when she missed one shift because of the flu. Jason last week, twirling her keys like they already belonged to him, her parents standing behind him, nodding, defending, scolding her for being selfish. Her throat burned, not just from thirst but from the betrayal replaying in her head like a cruel film. Her parents hadn't just left her, they had laughed while doing it. They had chosen Jason's smirk over her survival. The road stretched on, endless. Her mouth dried out, tongue sticking to the roof. She had no water, no phone, nothing but stubbornness keeping her upright. The thought of collapsing in the dirt crossed her mind more than once, but then Jason's voice echoed in her memory. You know I'll get it eventually. Her fists clenched. Not if I burn it first, she muttered bitterly. Hours blurred together. Her legs moved on autopilot, her body heavy and sluggish, but the flicker of asphalt on the horizon jolted her forward. The dirt road widened, spilling into a cracked highway where, in the distance, a faded gas station sign swayed in the heat. Relief nearly knocked her to her knees. She forced herself into a half-run, stumbling as she pushed forward, lungs burning. By the time she reached the station, her hands shook as she shoved the door open. The cool air inside hit her skin, and she nearly cried from the sudden comfort. The attendant glanced up, startled. You okay, miss? Emily's voice rasped. Phone, please. I need to make a call. He slid his cell across the counter without question, and she clutched it like a lifeline, dialing the only number she trusted. Megan. Her voice cracked when her friend picked up. It's me. I need you. Within 30 minutes, Megan's beat-up Subaru pulled into the lot. She jumped out, her face pale with shock. Emily, oh my God, what happened to you? Emily sank into the passenger seat, the air conditioning blasting against her overheated skin. Words tumbled out in a jagged rush. Her family's suggestion of an outing, Jason driving, the sudden stop on the dirt road, the laughter as they sped away. By the time she finished, her throat was raw and her hands trembled against her lap. Megan stared at her like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. They left you out there? On purpose? Emily nodded once, her jaw tightening. That's not just neglect, Megan said, her voice hard and certain. That's sabotage. They didn't just forget about you, they wanted to hurt you. And if you don't see that, You're going to let them do it again. Emily's chest tightened, her stomach sinking with the weight of the truth. She had spent years convincing herself her parents were just misguided, that they're favo. Emily lay on Megan's couch that first night, staring at the ceiling fan spin in lazy circles above her. Her body ached from the walk. Her lips were still cracked from thirst, but the pain was nothing compared to the hollow weight inside her chest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it again, her mom's laugh, her dad's booming chuckle, Jason's fist raised in triumph as the car sped away. She had been their victim, their scapegoat, their punching bag. Not anymore. By morning, the decision was carved into her bones. She wouldn't beg. She wouldn't try to make them love her. If they wanted war, she would bring it. The first step was security. While Megan poured coffee, Emily made the call, to a lawyer she found through a recommendation at work. Her hands trembled as she explained the situation, but her voice steadied when she said the words, the car title. I need to make sure it's in my name, mine alone. Within the week, the paperwork was in order. No joint names, no loopholes. That Civic belonged solely to her. The lawyer even gave her advice on how to protect herself if Jason or her parents tried to interfere again. It felt like putting a lock on the one piece of independence they had tried to strip away. Next came distance. She told her boss she needed a schedule adjustment and took on extra shifts at odd hours, anything to keep herself occupied and out of reach. Her parents' numbers were blocked. The house that once felt like a prison cell became nothing more than an address she refused to return to. But it wasn't enough to escape. She wanted them to feel it. The absence of her help, the silence of her voice, the weight of her refusal. At home, Emily had carried so much more than her share. She paid the electric bill when her parents fell behind. She ran errands. She picked Jason up when he needed rides, stocked groceries when the fridge was bare, kept the house running when no one else bothered. Without her, they would stumble, and stumble hard. It started small. Her mom texted from a different number, claiming the Wi-Fi bill hadn't been paid. Emily deleted it without answering. Her dad left a voicemail asking if she could spot them just until Friday. She erased it, her fingers steady on the screen. Jason even showed up at the clinic once, leaning against her car in the lot like he still owned it. She walked straight past him, into work, ignoring his shouts echoing across the pavement. Each time she refused them, a little strength returned. But her mind kept circling back to revenge. Quiet, calculated. Not the screaming matches Jason thrived on. Not the guilt tripping her parents wielded like a weapon. Something sharper. Something they wouldn't see coming. She started listing everything she knew about their weak spots. Her dad's constant debt, the way he borrowed money and relied on her to help catch up. Her mom's obsession with appearances, how much she cared about what neighbors and relatives thought. Jason's laziness and entitlement, the way he bragged about opportunities he never followed through on. Financially, they were fragile. Emotionally, they were even weaker. All it would take was one tug at the right thread, and the whole fabric of their smug little kingdom would unravel. Lying in bed that night, Emily felt something new flicker inside her. Not fear, not grief, not exhaustion. Control. They thought leaving her in the middle of nowhere would break her. They thought their laughter would echo in her ears forever. But Emily wasn't broken. She was planning. And soon, they would learn what it felt like to be powerless. It started with a knock at Megan's apartment door one Friday evening. Emily froze at the sound. Slow, deliberate, heavy. Megan peeked through the peephole and muttered, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Jason." Emily's chest tightened as his voice called out, syrupy sweet. "Em, come on, we need to talk. Family comes first, right?" Megan's eyes flashed, but Emily shook her head. She stepped forward, her voice cutting sharp through the door. "Go away, Jason. You're being dramatic," he said with a chuckle. "Mom and Dad are worried sick. We've all decided it's time to put this behind us. You've had your little tantrum. Now give me the keys and we'll call it even." Emily's hand clenched into a fist at her side. "Even? You left me 3 miles from a signal and drove off laughing. You don't get to come here and call that even." Silence followed for a moment, then Jason's voice hardened. "You're gonna regret this, Em. Family takes care of each other. You can't just cut us out." Emily's chest burned, but she didn't let her voice shake. "I already did." The pounding stopped after a while, but it wasn't the last she saw of him. 2 days later, leaving work, she spotted Jason crouched near her Civic in the parking lot. Her gut twisted as she realized what he was doing, fumbling at the lock, trying to pry his way in. "Hey!" Emily shouted, her voice fierce as she stormed across the lot. "Get away from my car." Jason jumped up, trying to mask his guilt with a smirk. "Relax, just borrowing it. You work too much anyway." Emily's hands shook, but not from fear. From fury. She marched straight past him, slid into the driver's seat, and locked the doors. His fist slammed against the window, but she backed out without looking at him. That night, she called the lawyer again. By the end of the week, she had filed a restraining notice against her own brother. It felt brutal. Final. But it was necessary. Jason's new job opportunity collapsed almost immediately after. He had bragged about working with a buddy's construction crew, but without a reliable ride, he missed shifts. Within 2 weeks, he was fired. Word reached Emily through the grapevine, her mom's passive-aggressive texts, her dad's bitter voicemail. Then came the begging. Her mom's voice cracked in the message. "Emily, please, you know how hard things have been for Jason. He just needs one more chance. We're family. Don't turn your back on us." Her dad's was gruffer, but just as desperate. "The bills are piling up. You've always been responsible. Help us out just this once." Emily listened to each one in silence, her jaw tightening, her chest heavy. She remembered every guilt trip, every dismissal, every time they had chosen Jason over her. And then, clearest of all, she remembered standing on that dirt road, dust choking her lungs, watching the back of her own car disappear while their laughter echoed in her. When her phone rang again, she finally answered. Her mom's voice burst through immediately, frantic. "Emily, thank God, we need you." Emily cut her off. Her voice was low, steady, unshakable. "You left me on the side of the road. I don't owe you anything." There was silence on the other end, followed by a choked sound that might have been her mom starting to cry. Emily ended the call before it could turn into another performance. She placed the phone down gently on Megan's table, her hands finally steady. For the first time in years, maybe ever, Emily felt free. They had no power left. Not their guilt, not their manipulation, not even their laughter. The only thing they had now was the sound of a slammed door and her voice refusing to open it again. Jason's spiral came fast and ugly. Without the car, he missed shift after shift at the construction site until they finally cut him loose. He stomped around the Parker house, slamming doors, yelling into his headset as though video games could drown out the fact that he was unemployed and broke again. His bitterness turned sharp, always circling back to the same refrain. This is Emily's fault. At first, Karen and Robert tried to soothe him, promising that Emily would come to her senses. But weeks dragged on, and the silence from their daughter never broke. Bills piled up. Without Emily's contributions to the electric or the groceries, Robert's paycheck stretched too thin. Karen took extra hours at the store, coming home with swollen feet and snapping at both her husband and Jason. The once smug Parker household grew sour. Jason's tantrums collided with Karen's exhaustion, Robert's stress simmering underneath until it exploded in loud arguments that shook the thin walls of the house. "You said she'd come back around," Robert shouted one night, his voice carrying out the open windows. Karen's reply came sharp as a knife. "Don't put this on me. You're the one who babied Jason his whole life. Maybe if he had a job worth keeping." Jason cut in, voice cracking with rage. "This is her fault. If Emily had just given me the car like she was supposed to." "You shut your mouth," Robert roared, for once turning his anger on his golden son. The house fell silent after that, but the fracture lines had already split wide open. Outside their four walls, the story spread. Relatives started calling, not to scold Emily, but to ask if it was true. Had Karen and Robert really driven off with Jason, leaving her stranded miles from help? Emily never exaggerated. She told the truth calmly, plainly, to every aunt and cousin who asked. The shock on the other end of the line was always the same, followed by cold disapproval that wasn't aimed at her. Neighbors whispered, too. The Parkers had always been proud of their image, presenting themselves as a tidy, tight-knit family. But when word spread that Emily had been abandoned on a back road by her own blood, that facade cracked. Karen noticed the sidelong glances at the grocery store, the conversations that stopped when she walked by. Robert heard it at work. Co-workers who used to admire his family man talk now raised eyebrows behind his back. The family name, once a badge they wore proudly, became something sour on other people's tongues. Emily, meanwhile, found herself breathing easier with each passing day. At Megan's apartment, she slipped into a rhythm she had never known in her parents' house. Her job schedule steadied, her paycheck stacked higher without being siphoned into her parents' bills. She bought her own groceries, cooked meals with Megan, laughed in the kitchen without fear of Jason barging in to mock. She even started going out, dinners with co-workers, movie nights with friends who had once grown distant because she was always too exhausted from family obligations. For the first time, her life felt like it was hers. And the more she thrived, the more the Parker house seemed to unravel. Jason sulked in the basement, broke and bitter. Karen snapped at Robert, who drowned his frustration in long drives to nowhere. The laughter that had once echoed in Emily's ears was gone, replaced by shouting matches and slammed doors. The unity they had sacrificed her for had crumbled into dust. Emily didn't watch it with glee, at least, not entirely. It wasn't joy she felt so much as justice. They had abandoned her in the dirt, laughing as she struggled. Now they were the ones left stranded, powerless, turning on each other, while she built a life stronger than anything they could take away. For the first time, Emily felt untouchable. Emily stood in the dealership lot, sunlight glinting off rows of polished hoods. Her old Civic had carried her through years of struggle. Every late shift, every errand, every narrow escape from her family's suffocating grip. But now, standing before the sleek silver Toyota Camry she had just signed for, she felt something deeper than pride. She felt closure. The salesman handed her the keys with a smile. "Congratulations, she's all yours." Emily slid into the driver's seat, the scent of new leather filling her lungs. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, and for a moment she just sat there, letting the reality sink in. This wasn't just a car. It was proof. Proof that she had survived, that she had worked, that she had built something her family could never take from her. On the drive back to Megan's, the Camry purred smooth beneath her, a stark contrast to the rattling engine of the Civic she'd clung to for years. She should have gone straight home, but a pull in her chest nudged her toward a detour, toward closure. Her parents' street looked the same, though somehow smaller than she remembered. The Parker house sat at the bend, paint peeling, grass overgrown. The curtains were drawn even in daylight. It felt less like a home and more like a shell. Emily slowed just enough to take it in. Jason's beat-up old sedan slouched in the driveway, rust eating at the wheel well. The hood was propped open with a crooked stick, as if someone had tried and failed to fix it. It was a picture of stagnation, of all the promises Jason had never fulfilled, all the chances he had squandered. For a flicker of a moment, Emily wondered if they were inside watching. Maybe her mother peeking through the blinds, her father slumped in the recliner, Jason sprawled across the couch, still blaming her for his downfall. Maybe they would see her behind the wheel of her brand new car. Maybe it would sting. But Emily didn't slow. She didn't wave. She pressed her foot gently on the gas, and the Camry carried her past the house, down the street, and out of their orbit forever. Her revenge had never been about screaming matches or dramatic confrontations. It wasn't about throwing their betrayal back in their faces. It was about walking away, about proving, with every mile she drove forward, that they no longer had any hold on her. The Parker family had chosen to abandon her on a dirt road, laughing as they left her in the dust. That was the last moment they'd ever had power over her. Now, Emily's revenge was her freedom. By the time she pulled into Megan's driveway, the weight that had clung to her for years felt lighter. She parked the Camry, turned off the engine, and sat in the quiet hum of her own triumph. The girl who once begged for scraps of affection from parents who never gave it, who once fought tooth and nail for a car she had worked for, was gone. In her place stood a woman who needed nothing from them. The real victory wasn't watching them collapse without her help. It was knowing she didn't need to witness it. Her life no longer orbited there. Emily stepped out of her new car, locked it with a click, and walked toward the future she had carved for herself, free, steady, and untouchable. Do you believe Emily made the right choice by cutting ties and building her own life, or should she have given her family another chance? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to hear them. And if you enjoy stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.